On average, we did 25 to 30 combat patrols a day. All hours of the night, sporadically searching houses, kicking in doors. It's you or him. No! Combat is a real combination of fear, deep sorrow, exhaustion, adrenaline, sleeplessness, and complacency, but hypervigilance. The violence is horrific. The violence of a 50 cal or a mortar or a roadside bomb is just, it's indescribable. You know, dying that happens in combat is not like movies. It's a lot of moaning and crying and you frantically trying to save somebody you care about. I hit 2 roadside bombs while I was there. I felt the extreme heat and fire. I could feel the concussion in my organs, sort of, and I blacked out. We all kind of came to. I spun it around. I went back through the kill zone.
I started getting a heart for veterans probably 4 or 5 years ago. I was doing Bangor, the airport troop greeting, and I was seeing guys doing 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 tours of duty coming home. And my service, I have 8 years in the Guard, over 20 years in the fire service, so I know what the PTSD, what that is all about. So I'm seeing this, having met guys at the airport, greeting them, I'm seeing this. And I'm thinking to myself, these guys down the road are gonna have a run-in with law enforcement, and we're gonna have a problem.
We are seeing an uptick, if you will, of veterans and veterans' needs.
Whether it's you have medical issues going on, or you have financial issues going on, you got marital issues going on, you don't generally talk about it, you keep it inside, and you just keep driving forward.
Literally, in my room for 2 years, it was my safe spot. I didn't have to worry about anything. I didn't, all the problems of the world that bothered me, I was shut in my room for 2 years so I didn't have to deal with them.
I could not possibly have been more addicted to drugs. I'd been getting fed prescriptions ever since I got out of the Marine Corps for 15 years. And basically I was at the point in life where I didn't care if I fell asleep at night and I didn't wake up in the morning. I really thought that not just my daughter, but everybody that had any cares or concerns for me would be better off if that was just the way it went and I wasn't around anymore.
A lot of individuals are not aware of the suicide rate of veterans, and registered, it can be between 22 to 24 a day.
If I walk on Water Street in Augusta, those 3, 4, 5-story buildings, that would be like walking down through this. Fran was the main drag in Fallujah, and we're constantly 360 looking at my troops, looking for identifying targets. So when I came back, new experience for me. I didn't know, I thought maybe after a short period of time, I'd be okay and just suck it up and be okay. But it didn't work out that way.
He really just started behaving in a way that I just didn't know who that was, and I was shocked.
Jody Liberty has known Randy since she was 17 years old.
As time went on, he started to become more intolerant of people, and he would have this, like that, his behavior would just turn and he would be irritated, upset, and then it just kept getting worse and worse.
And I was facing 2 years in prison. I've never been in any type of real trouble in my entire life.
And in many of the cases, what we find is after serving several tours of combat, that when the person comes back to our state, there's a first-time criminal activity that's an explosion. It's a big one. It's a felony, and oftentimes it's a robbery, something instead of coming into the criminal justice system the way we see other people come in, which is maybe with a misdemeanor theft charge or a drug possession charge, it seems to be that it's a big case, it's the first case ever, and it is a result of the PTSD that they're suffering from.
We then started conversations when Sheriff Liberty was leading efforts for veterans in Kennebec County to help out on the veterans block there. We were going into his jail and screening people on a daily basis to see if there was some type of programming, that they could participate in that would get them out of that jail safely and back into the community and start to restore their lives. At that point, my coworker, TJ Wheeler, who was a case manager for Justice Mills Court, approached Justice Mills and asked her if she would consider a veterans court. He is a veteran from the Air Force, and he had energy and wanted to specifically help veterans. And so Justice Mills was very gracious and energetic and said yes. And so together, the two of them, with Sheriff Liberty and others, created the Veterans Court.
So important that veterans know that there is a court system designed for veterans that they can have their case heard in front of. This is true for a veteran who commits a crime anywhere in the state of Maine. The crime does not have to be committed in Kennebec or Somerset County in order for it to be eligible for the Veterans Court. And in fact, we've had veterans from all over the state of Maine who have had their cases transferred to Augusta so that it can be handled in the Veterans Court. The court is not, it's not a program where you show up one day for your arraignment and then one day for your conference and it's over. It's completely different from the rest of the judicial system. The way it works is a veteran has to plead guilty in order to enter the court. So if the veteran does not think that he or she committed the crime that he or she is accused of, then it will, then that person should plead not guilty and should have a trial and should say, no, I didn't commit this crime. But if the person says, yes, I committed this crime, but it's not who I was, I shouldn't have done this, I'm willing to take responsibility, and I'm willing to turn my life around, that's the person that the Veterans Court is there to serve. It is a therapeutic court. It is about rehabilitation. It is about bringing the veteran back to the person that he or she was before the criminal activity took place.
This is a successful program. We haven't had anybody fail in this program. The success rate is amazing. Everybody that comes in gets out, and they're either volunteering, or they're going to school, or they're holding a full-time job. Then this program proves that it's effective, and it proves that veterans are in dire need of help.
One of the essential elements that TJ found was that in order for a veterans court to work effectively and to function at all, it needed to have mentors who themselves were veterans, had served, and were available for the veterans in the court.
From there, I got involved with being a mentor with Veterans Court. Last November, we actually formed a nonprofit called Veteran Mentors of Maine. And our sole purpose is to provide veteran support.
One of the most effective ways to assist veterans in transitioning back into civilian life is peer mentorship. And you know, I've witnessed childbirth, but I certainly can't speak to it like a woman that has delivered a baby. Same with individuals that have served in the military. They know the language, they've had similar experiences, and so peer mentorship is critically important. What's happened in the Central Maine area, the Veterans Mentors of Maine have filled that void and have been at it for several years in the Kennebec County Correctional Facility, in the Veterans Block, and have had a huge presence in the Veterans Court. So the Veterans Mentors of Maine have filled that role and done it well. And critically important to be able to sit down and to talk about experiences in the military with those veterans, and that veteran mentorship is critically important.
Veterans Mentors of Maine provides a very unique set of eyes and set of ears. They're in a position, they're all veterans. And so they're in a position to have an immediate understanding of the issues that many people who are not veterans may learn through reading and studies and so forth. These folks have all experienced many of the same types of issues, or were very close to fellow veterans who experienced those issues. And so they have a very unique skill set that provides an in with the veterans that as professionals we just don't have. So if you look at somebody like me, a veteran might look at me and say, well, that's a stuffed shirt. I don't have much to say to him, or I don't have much in common with him, versus a peer mentor whom they're meeting with much more regularly. The availability of the peer mentors is extraordinary. These guys are on the phone at midnight, 2 o'clock in the morning. If there's an issue with transportation or a veteran that's being released from jail, the peer mentor will be there to pick them up. The peer mentor will visit that person during an incarceration or hospitalization, versus the availability that I have. I just don't have that kind of availability. As a professional, I'm going to see them for an hour a week in my office, or I may run into them at court on Mondays when I go in to provide consultation.
The Veteran Mentors of Maine is a critical component. We knew immediately that we did not have the resources through the VA, through case management, through the court. As much as we all wanted to volunteer and help, we needed individuals in the community who had walked the walk, done the service, and identified as veterans so that our veterans had some trust. Here's someone that has been in my footsteps, maybe wasn't in the same area I was, maybe they were. We try to attach with Veterans Mentors of Maine branch by branch, so that if I've served in the Army, I have someone who's done the same thing. We could not have this court without Veterans Mentors of Maine.
It made me realize that there truly are vets out there that really care about you. You know, a lot of times with PTSD and depression, you know, I know for a while I just didn't think anybody cared. Just another number, you know what I mean? Just another governmental number. But being in the Vets Court program and going to the mentor meetings every Thursday made me realize that there are people that care. You know what I mean? People are taking time out of their day that don't have to. They're volunteering to do this, and they're religiously showing up and asking, hey, how are you doing? What can I do for you?
Everything from picking a guy up at prison, giving him a ride, to housing, providing support for a homeless vet, getting them into a homeless shelter, getting someone a food card from Hannaford. They might not have the means to, they get out of jail and their refrigerator is empty. To just be in, when you say your phone is on 24/7, it means 2 o'clock in the morning if a vet calls and has an issue, needs to talk to somebody, you're there. You pick the phone up and answer the phone, and how can I help you?
This group of mentors that we have are unbelievable. These gentlemen all go and donate their time to us out of the goodness of their hearts and because of the people that they are. There's so many different people that choose to come into this program and mentor us. We have attorneys, and we have people like Ziggy and real estate agents and people from all walks of life and have been through so much themselves and come out the other side. And the only reason that they're there is to help us. They get nothing out of it, maybe a thank you or, hey, we appreciate what you do for us in return. But any time that we need them 24 hours a day, they're just a phone call away. And, you know, to have people like that in your life and offering advice and guidance if you have a problem is, you know, more than someone should really be able to ask for.
Just everything that they have you do, the meetings and the actual accountability, because as crazy as it sounds, people really cared about you in the program, and they're checking up with you and finding out how your day's going, seeing if you're staying clean, seeing if you're staying straight. it was weird at first because I got out of the military and then, you know, progressed to being on my own in isolation and that type of stuff, and back into a community where people really cared about you and what was going on with you.
So for a veteran that's been through it, or a veteran that has, whether it's gone down the legal system and came back, is able to help mentor, able, like a big brother, big sister, be able to take him by the hand and say, I got you back, brother. It's not the end of the world. And yet, together, as a community, as a family, you're able to do that. You're able to drive. You're able to you pick up those pieces and turn it around and find not only a purpose to live. So now you've mitigated those issues of the 22 veterans a day, but now they're becoming productive, and they're coming back in and helping other veterans. So now it's almost like an old movie that I saw as a kid, Pay It Forward. It's one good deed deserves another, and it just gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And for me, if I can save one person, it's all worth it.
So it's really an amazing process to watch. It's amazing to see someone who comes into the court with so much distrust and so much anxiety, and to see that person change during their time in the Veterans Court to become a confident, self-assured, compassionate individual who's there not only for themselves but also there for others. So it's really been a tremendous privilege and honor to work with the veterans in the Veterans Court.
Yeah, critically important. I think that often after we're done serving, whether we served in combat or not, or whatever our role was, if you're a veteran, often you feel as though you'd like to continue to serve. And one of the best ways, I think, to serve is to raise your hand and say, how can I help? One very large need now is to mentor our transitioning veterans. And Veterans Mentors of Maine are doing that now. They have a proven track record. They've been at it for several years. They've had some great success with a lot of veterans. So I think that if you can find it in your heart, or if you feel called, or if you feel you'd like to continue to serve in the military, one way to do that is the Veterans Mentors of Maine.
If you want to become a mentor, it's very simple. Give us a shout. We'll gladly sit down with you, and I can give you a brief description of what we do and what's you need to. There needs to be a commitment. Okay, if you say you're gonna have your phone on for somebody to call you, it needs to be on. There are meetings during the week. You need to at least come to the Thursday afternoon meeting that we have, and you'll get and develop a personal relationship with these guys. If you don't come to a meeting, you'll never get to meet them and never know who they are. So that's how it starts. For me, it actually starts with the veteran who may be in jail, because I see these people before they get into Veterans Court and develop a relationship so they know who I am.
It's going to help you out more than it's going to help anybody else out. You get out there, you just do one small act that's going to help someone. You really see the appreciation on their face, and it does something inside. It's the new craving. You want that more and more.
3 years ago, I was a full-blown hard liquor alcoholic. I was going through a half gallon of Absolute every 2 nights. I'd sleep until noon, 1 o'clock. Very rarely would I turn my lights on until, ironically enough, it became dark outside. I created my own prison in my apartment. I didn't call people, I didn't want to see people, I didn't want to deal with people. I had no motivation. I didn't think anybody cared. Sorry. And now now I look forward to getting up in the morning. I truly do. I realize that what I've been through has actually helped a lot more people than I would have ever thought.
I think that we can all agree we have a duty to assist our veterans when they return from combat and they struggle with their transition. The reality is if you're able to assist and you have resources, I would ask you to look into the mirror, reach into your heart and say, how can I assist? How can I help the Veterans Mentors of Maine assist these individuals? If you don't have the time, if you're too busy, if you have resource, I would ask you to consider contributing and assisting the Veterans Mentors of Maine to assist these young individuals, the ones from Afghanistan that have been struggling, the ones from Iraq that have been struggling for a decade or more, and to also not forget the Vietnam veterans that have been struggling for more than 40 years. This is our opportunity, this is your opportunity to help our veterans in any way that you can.
We know that everything costs money. There's an expense to any service that happens any day. Time is an expense to people. If you're an individual that has any funding available, it is not too small. I know that this organization can benefit from donations as small as $5 or $10 and has benefited from donations as large as $10,000. Any amount is helpful because it helps pay for people's time, it helps pay to get the message out, and it helps support people with things like housing, food, clothing, and furniture when they're coming out of jail after being locked up after service.
We really have nothing available for our veteran mentors right now, and that is wrong. If we could pay mileage, if we could maybe even give them a card so that they could take a veteran grocery shopping, right? A food card. Anything like that would make a really big difference in what people are able to do.
Hopes and dreams and prayers are nice to try and work towards something, but you have to have the cold hard cash or you're not going to do it.
Every little bit helps. Grants, like I said earlier, it's a 501c3, it's a nonprofit organization. So, I mean, we know money makes the world go round. And a dollar from a million people is $1 million.
Veterans need to help veterans out. It's the only way we're going to be able to help mitigate these numbers.
Any person can make a difference. Any one person can make a difference.